Good morning, UUSS. Whether you're here in the sanctuary with us or on Zoom, we welcome you. If you would please rise in body or spirit to sing We Give Thanks. We'll begin as a call and response. I'll lead and you join. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away. For this time we share, with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for those gathered here and those far away. For the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. For those gathered here and those far away. For this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks.
Good morning. And welcome to our Sunday service. I am Roger Jones, happy to serve as one of the ministers here at UUSS. Our preacher today is my co-ministry colleague, the Reverend Lucy Bunch, and her sermon title today is The Pursuit of Happiness. And whether you... Okay. Whether you're here in person or participating online, we are happy that you are here. We are also happy to welcome back a musical group called the Tumbleweeds, who are Nancy Flagg, Carol Gooden, Janet Comstock, and Sandy Andrews. You've seen and heard some of them before, so welcome back. And 3/4 of them actually are members of the congregation, and they'll offer a gift of music later in the service. Thank you for being here. The mission of our congregation says, we come together to deepen our lives and be a force for healing in the world. Toward this end, we honor the Nishanan, Southern Maidu, and Miwok peoples for their enduring commitment to this land where UUSS exists. They have never ceded, left, nor ceased to care for this land. For those on Zoom, if you'd like to follow what's happening today with an order of service, you can click the link in the chat. The order of service is also on the table in the back, so we hope you have a chance to, you did pick one up, or you can pick one up now. If you're new or not so new, the blue sheet weekly calendar is an important guide to finding activities of interest to you and news of the congregation. And you can find the blue sheet on the back table or on the welcome table in the hall and on our website. Our weekly message comes out by email every Friday with announcements and a note from one of the ministers. We are happy to send you this weekly email if you can fill out a newcomer's form, either by a link in the chat or at the greeters table after the service. Weekly messages have alerted you to criminal scams going out in emails and purporting to be, that is, lying that they are from the ministers, and they're not. So please don't respond to any requests or gift cards or your personal information from anybody. Today, after service on Zoom, there will be 12 minutes of time to get acquainted in breakout rooms, so please feel free to stay and do that. And if you're here in person, we invite you to stay for coffee, tea, and other refreshments and opportunities to connect inside and out on the patio. If you've been reading our message and our blue sheet, you know the bleak news that next Sunday is my last Sunday before my sabbatical. You didn't read it, huh? I won't be around till February, so wear your name tags and wear them especially on the first Sunday of February. But given the sad news that you won't hear me give any more announcements for the next 5 months, I hope you will pay special attention to the following highlights from the blue sheet and the weekly message. In addition to goodbye hugs for me, next Sunday during the service, we will have our annual blessing of the backpacks for the start of a new school year. So if you're a student or an educator or a school staff member, bring your backpack or your briefcase or your lunchbox and receive our joy and good wishes for the year and a little remembrance from UUSS. Also next Sunday, registration ends for our Soul Matters small groups. These groups build connections and provide a place where we can speak and listen to what matters most to us. Whether meeting online or in person, Soul Matters group is structured around monthly themes that we use in our worship and religious education programs. These are facilitated groups of 8 to 10 people, meeting twice a month, starting in September and ending in May. Our groups will take a break from late December to late January. So you can register through our website, or you can sign up today on the patio? No, out by the front door. As you go out the front door. Next Sunday is also the first Sunday of the month, which is when we have an outdoor labyrinth meditation. With Reverend Lucy, you can come early to trace the labyrinth in the meadow at 9:30. And as you make your way to the labyrinth, you might be looking at the meadow, and you might say to yourself, you know what this place needs is a few dozen pollinator-friendly bushes and flowering plants. You are in luck because our meadow fundraiser takes place today after the service and it ends next Sunday. So with your help, we are going to plant a pollinator-friendly garden in the meadow between the patio and the labyrinth and the education building. So after the service, you can find the display that John and Glory have set up to show the flowering bushes and other beautiful plants that you can buy to put in our meadow. And there's a range of prices, and each one includes drip irrigation and soil amendments. And you don't have to do the planting. It will be beautiful. So stop by after the service or contact John McMillan or Glory Wickland this week. 2 weeks from today is our annual in-gathering, a service for all ages, including our ritual of gathering of the waters. And our theme that day is an oasis of welcome. It's a great opportunity to invite somebody that you have wanted to introduce to UUSS. So bring a friend or a housemate or a spouse or a parent or a kid here in person or on Zoom. And if you don't bring somebody, then be sure to meet some people when you're here. So now is the time to turn off your cell phone, ringers, and your watch to silent mode, turn them to silent mode so we can avoid distractions of ringers and chimes in the service. And as you do that, I have saved the most dramatic announcement for last. This afternoon, we have an amazing musical concert. Thomas Durthik on double bass. Hi, Tom. And Irina Tchantceva on piano, playing music by Soviet-era composers. Some of those composers stayed in Russia and had to face denouncement. Shostakovich was denounced twice by the government for his creations. And some fled the Soviet Union for freedom, like Serge Koussevitzky, who became the conductor of the Boston Symphony Orchestra and stayed at it for 25 years. Tom and Irina have been rehearsing for weeks to offer this benefit concert for UUSS. Tickets will be available at the door. The show starts at 2. You can read about it in the blue sheet. And it's $20 for adults, $10 for students, and free for ages 12 and younger. Hope to see you there. Let's prepare for the music for centering now.
Nice to be with you this morning. Alicia Taylor is our chalice lighter this morning. She is a member of our intern committee that will be supporting our intern, Rosemary Dodd, throughout the year. Thank you, Alicia, and to all the committee members. As we kindle this flame, may it spark in each of us connection and commitment to this living tradition and to each other. Now is the time for our ritual to welcome Rosemary Dodd and to commission her as our ministerial intern for this church year. She began in mid-August and will be serving us until mid-June of 24. I'd like to invite the members of the internship committee who are here with us this morning to come forward on the chancel, and for Rosemary to come forward.
Rosemary is a candidate for Ministerial Fellowship with the Unitarian Universalist Association. She has completed her chaplaincy training and received a Master of Divinity degree from Harvard Divinity School. Now she will serve in a full-time internship with our congregation. This is an opportunity both to serve in ministry in this congregation and to learn while doing so. To help with some of Rosemary's living expenses in Sacramento, UUSS will provide a modest stipend to her this year.
Good morning, I'm Randy Webb. The UUSS Internship Committee this year includes Jim Eastman, who's not here today, Alicia Taylor, Lisa Bunker, Mimi Lewis, and myself. Our committee will meet with Rosemary every month to provide support, offer feedback, and ask thoughtful questions about her experience with UUSS. Today we are hosting a small reception after the service, so we invite you to stay and welcome Rosemary, enjoy refreshments, and get to know other members of the congregation. If you're on Zoom today, hopefully you have some refreshments at hand. You may put your name and your words of welcome in the chat at any time, and Rosemary will receive a copy later this week.
Whether you are with us online or here in person, please rise as you are able to welcome Rosemary. Please now join me in speaking the words that you see on the slide in unison. Rosemary, we welcome you, and we commission you as our ministerial intern. As you open yourself to learning, we open ourselves to learning with you. Here, cheer, we invite you to serve as a pastor, preacher, and prophet. In this community of all ages, we welcome you as an educator, organizer, leader, and spiritual companion.
I accept this role as your ministerial intern. I look forward to getting to know you as people of all ages, gifts, needs, and abilities. I seek to learn from this congregation in the months ahead as we serve together. I seek to share in your ministry of compassion and justice, worship and creativity, mutual care, and the celebration of life.
Rosemary, as your supervisors, Lucy and I are excited to learn with you and to learn from you as we witness the gifts and the uniqueness of your own ministry. In conclusion, this congregation will speak together the words on the slide. As soon as they appear on the slide, we will say, recognizing your responsibilities as a teaching congregation, we commit to support your ministry as you learn and grow with us. As you minister to us, help us to minister as we make real the promise of Unitarian Universalism. Help us to embody our shared values with courage. Blessings on your ministry.
One message of welcome followed by another of ushering out. It's now time for anyone involved in the religious education to come forward, whether they be child or adult. And as we send you on your way to explore what it is that you are exploring today, we guide you in your song. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Lift up your eyes. Don't you despair. Look up ahead. The path is there. You gotta put one foot 1 foot in front of the other one. 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, and lead with love. You gotta put 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot in front of the other one. 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, and lead with love.
I forgot to give Rosemary this gift, which is an ornament or a keepsake. It is the item that we had made when we celebrated our sesquicentennial or 150th anniversary from the congregation. So, welcome. This is a community of care and compassion, of gratitude and celebration, and we affirm this in this time of joys and sorrows every week. If you would like to let the ministerial staff know of your news, you can find a link to the Joys and Sorrows form in the Friday weekly message, or you can call the office by Friday. And we have a few things to mention today. I want to note an important moment in this country's history tomorrow, the 60th anniversary of a major event in the civil rights movement, the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. It took place 20 years after it was first conceived of by labor leaders. And this event drew an attendance of 260,000 people. It's remembered for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s sharing his dream of a better country for everyone, a better world for everyone. So as we commemorate this day, this event, this accomplishment, let us renew our sense of possibility for our time and for the years ahead of us by remembering what people of courage and creativity can achieve through shared commitment and shared sacrifice in service to building the common good. Today and this week, there are many sources of joy in the lives that make up this community. May an awareness of one another's blessings bring all of us gratitude, and may we find gratitude in the gifts of ordinary life, starting with the blessing of this day. May we strive to show kindness to others on good days as well as days of challenge and heartbreak. Today, we extend condolences. Our member, Alice Mercer, has shared the news of the loss of Pam Courtney, a beloved physical education teacher at Bancroft Elementary School, who died after an extended illness. Our condolences to her students and colleagues and former students. And today we extend condolences to the family of our member, Patricia Stifler, who died last week, just a week shy of her 96th birthday. Patricia brought up 4 children, and among other jobs for 25 years, she worked at McClellan Air Force Base as a data analyst with the security clearance of secret. Rosemary will be officiating at a graveside service for Patricia, who became a member of this congregation in 2004, and we will put details in the message. Also, we have news of a heartbreaking event in the family of John McMillan and Janet Lopes. John's 21-year-old nephew or grandnephew, Matthew Greenlee, suffered an accidental head injury last week while working on his bike. And despite all the efforts of medical teams, his brain has ceased to function, and Matthew's life is slipping away. At 21 years old and just beginning his 3rd year of college. We extend our love to John and Janet and our care to Matthew's whole family. May his departing be peaceful. Please join me now in a time of centering. Relax your eyes, whether open or closed. And wherever you may be, notice where you're sitting or resting. Notice the contact your body is making with the floor or the furniture which sustains you at this moment. And let us notice our breathing by taking a deep inhale breath together and pausing briefly and then exhaling deeply together now. And now a deeper breath, inhale and then pause and then exhale deeply together. And as we continue breathing together, let us receive these words of prayer. O God of tender compassion, when life brings pain and sorrow, hold us in comfort and bring us peace. As we hold others in our hearts, let us remember that we are held in their hearts and in the loving heart of the universe. O Spirit of human kinship, when we confront setbacks, grant us courage, strengthen us, help us to connect with one another, and help us to appreciate the web of connections that can sustain us. O breath of life, sustain us today and in the days to come. Enliven our awareness of the ordinary miracle of being alive. For all that is our life, may we find occasions in every day of life to give thanks. May we find moments every day to praise the beauty of life. Amen. Now let us pause for a few moments of silence together for personal reflections and prayers. Blessed be.
Celebration and sorrow, please join in singing For All That Is Our Life. Rise in body and spirit. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are bound to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain and loss, for each new thing we learn, for with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are born to use, choosing the common good, and make our own days glad.
When asked what they want out of life, one thing many people say is that they simply want to be happy. But what does happiness mean? What would it look like in your life? One way to find some answers to this question might be to simply ask people what would make them happy and then find commonalities. But more important than how people would answer the question are the unspoken and internalized myths about what makes a happy life. There are many, but chief among these myths is the idea that happiness is something you achieve. As if it were an award you could frame and hang on the wall. Or as if it were a destination. And after overcoming all of the obstacles in your way, you will finally arrive there and then just hang out for the rest of your life. Of course, it doesn't work that way. More than 2,000 years ago, Aristotle used a term that is still in wide use in psychology today. Eudaimonia.
That sounds good.
Does that sound good? Okay. It refers to a state of deep well-being in which a person feels that their life has meaning and purpose. It's often contrasted with hedonia, the origin of the word hedonism, which refers to the fleeting happiness of various pleasures. To put it another way, if hedonic happiness is what you mean when you say you're having a good time, then eudaimonic happiness is what we mean when we say, life is good. It is a sense that, outside of this moment, regardless of how pleasurable or miserable it is, your life is worth something and valuable to you. It is the kind of well-being that can endure through both the ups and the downs. Some psychologists object to the word happiness because it can mean anything, from a temporary pleasure to an almost mythical sense of eudaimonic pleasure that few in reality manage to reach. So, in lieu of happiness, more nuanced terms like well-being, wellness, thriving, and flourishing have become more common in the popular psychological literature. However, nobody says, "How's your human flourishing?" We say, "Are you happy?" We talk about health and happiness, meaning and purpose, but we mean eudaimonic happiness. When a couple describe their new grandchild and say, "We're very happy," or when someone in therapy describes her marriage as unhappy, it's clear the word refers to an enduring quality of life, not just a passing feeling. Lessons from the world's longest scientific study of happiness.
Are you happy today? Favorite verse coming right up. Your band. Are we getting happier? Be happy, it's so easy.
That's quite the act to follow. When my son Eli was little, I wanted him to be happy. I think that's pretty common. I was a child psychologist, and you might think that would give me a leg up on parenting, but you'd be wrong. I wasn't parented with kindness or empathy, and other than not repeating my parents' flagrant mistakes, I didn't really know what it looked like to be a good parent. I decided that Eli's happiness would be a measure of how I was doing as a parent. If he was happy, that would mean I was on the right track. I was giving him what he needed. I got kind of tangled up, though, because I assumed that what he wanted and what he needed were the same thing. You can guess where this is going. homemade burritos for breakfast, even on days that I was rushing to get to work. Immediate enrollment in any activity he expressed interest in, no matter how expensive or inconvenient. Bins and bins of Lego and Playmobil lining the walls of our playroom. We didn't wait for birthdays to buy him things because I had this idea that if I was generous with him, he would be happy. And bonus, he would learn generosity with others. That isn't exactly what happened. The more we gave him, the more he wanted. The more I chased happiness for him on his behalf, the more elusive it became. He got to be maybe 9 years old, and I knew things weren't going the way I wanted. But it wasn't until I went to a professional conference called something like The Entitled Child, the psychopathology of that, and how to treat it, which, spoiler alert, was more about working with the parents than the child. It wasn't until that conference where I ended up sobbing in the bathroom, sure that I had ruined my child, that I realized that we needed a major reset. The reset came from that same conference, where I realized that it was my goal that was misguided. I couldn't choreograph ongoing happiness for Eli, nor should I try to do that. What I needed to do instead was teach him how to live with his feelings, all of his feelings. Nowadays, that's referred to as emotional regulation, the ability to feel a feeling, whatever it is, and not try to run away from it or stamp it out, but instead to just sit with it, tolerate it, learn to move through it. Children learn emotional regulation from their parents, and especially from their parents' ability to stay calm and empathically connected in the face of big feelings, both the parents' feelings and the child's. So that's what I started working on. That's what I tried to do. And it quickly became apparent that happiness can't exist or exist in a meaningful way without the ability to also feel sad and jealous and frustrated and impatient and all the other things we feel over the course of our complex lives. Happiness can't be the goal. Really, it's more of a byproduct. And Eli, who's now 32, you might wonder, is he happy? Sure, sometimes, but that isn't the yardstick I use for him, or for me. I'm more interested in, is he and am I living a full life, a meaningful life, a life that includes other people and a purpose bigger than our own? I think we're both doing okay.
Our congregation's mission statement says, "We come together to deepen our lives and be a force for healing in the world." Among the ways we pursue this mission is the practice of giving half of each Sunday's offering to an organization that is working to heal the world. Our community partner for the month of August is the International Rescue Committee of Northern California. Please give generously in support of this important organization. On the slide, you can see the ways you may contribute electronically or by mailing in a check. It's posted in the chat box too. You can contribute by text right here in the sanctuary. The International Rescue Committee responds to the world's worst humanitarian crises and helps people whose lives and livelihoods are shattered by conflict and disaster to survive, recover, and gain control of their futures. Here in Sacramento, IRC has helped thousands of refugee families get the support they need to restart their lives. At this time, they are assisting refugees from the Ukraine who are fleeing the war. Our congregation has participated in many ways over the years, with supplies to establish homes, English as a second language lessons, garden space, driving lessons, and many more alongside our financial contributions. We are proud of our connection to this organization. Please give as generously as you can. Our shared offering will now be received. Please join me in speaking our unison words of response to the offering. May generosity bless our world, and may gratitude nourish our spirits.
So for the 6th year in a row, Finland has ranked as the #1 happiest country in the World Happiness Report. So of course the New York Times had to send a reporter to Finland and find out why people are so happy. And the answers they found are nuanced. First off, several people they interviewed thought it was amusing that people in Finland are considered happy, because they tend to be a bit moody and not prone to smile very much. The Finnish people consider themselves resilient. They pride themselves on susi, grim determination in the face of hardship. Now, this World Happiness Report is a global initiative of the United Nations. The research team that puts it together relies on a representative survey of individuals that's done by the Gallup organization. They also use information about the infrastructure in the countries that can contribute to happiness. And they consider what they call the happiness gap in their calculations. That's the difference in scale between the highest and lowest people in the country. Finland has the third smallest happiness gap, with very little difference between the happiest and the least happy people. So what's up with Finland? You likely know that their country, along with other Scandinavian countries, have the strongest social support network in the world. One respondent said that the social system there helps Finns to feel safe and secure, with no one left out of society. The educational system and government funding priority sends lots of money for things like the arts, which allow people to pursue their calling without having to worry about financial security. So this happiness in Finland is not the hedonistic kind, though I do imagine there's some hedonistic happiness during those long, cold winter months. Their happiness is eudaimonia. As Rosemary shared in the reading, eudaimonia is a deep well-being which a person feels when they feel safe and secure and their life has meaning and purpose. So how do you think we're doing here in the United States? We're 15th in the World Happiness Report. We're 34th in the happiness gap. But you know, our ideas on how to have a happy life and create happiness are quite different from the Finns. And interestingly enough, different from what our founding fathers intended in the Declaration of Independence. You know the line, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thomas Jefferson's draft of the Declaration of Independence received 69 editorial changes from his colleagues, but those words, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, made them through unscathed. We have embraced this pursuit with verve in our country, not always with the best results. According to Carolyn Winterer, a history professor at Stanford, the Founding Fathers really meant something different when they talked about the pursuit of happiness. They were focused on creating a government that freed people from tyranny and gave them an infrastructure of safety and security to allow them to fulfill their lives. Winterer says that our founders were referring to the pursuit of public happiness, creating a society that was peaceful and allowed each person to flourish. Public happiness creates an umbrella of security under which private, personal happiness can unfold. Now, unfortunately, I think maybe we've misunderstood the intent of our founders. We interpret the pursuit of happiness as the individual striving for their own benefit. I don't know about you, but I don't think that's gotten us to a really good place as a country. For example, in a 2007 survey, millennials were asked about their most important life goals. 75% said that becoming rich was their number one goal. 50% said their major goal was to be famous. More than a decade later, after these millennials had spent time as adults, similar questions were asked in a pair of surveys. Fame was a little lower on the list, but the top goals included things like making money, having a successful career, and becoming debt-free. Not unworthy goals, but not sufficient to secure happiness. Now, we all know that money doesn't buy happiness, and money doesn't guarantee happiness. Of course, a certain level of income is needed to meet your needs so that you are not consumed with the stresses of survival. But poverty doesn't mean you can't be happy. Neither does being rich ensure that you will. There are many people who have plenty of resources, but happiness eludes them, and chasing happiness wears them out. There's been a lot of research on happiness in recent years. Some of you may have seen the Time magazine cover article about it. And we do know what leads to a happy and fulfilling life. And it boils down to just 3 things. Understanding and accepting that life is not easy, that you will experience suffering, and developing the resilience to learn and grow through life's ups and downs. Building and maintaining strong relationships and deep connections throughout your life, and having a sense of purpose. These are the conclusions of a Harvard study of adult development that has followed the lives of 2 generations of individuals for more than 80 years. It is still ongoing. The current leaders of this study recently released a book called A Good Life: Lessons from the World's Longest Study of Happiness. Rosemary shared a reading from that study. The original study followed 268 Harvard-educated men and 456 disadvantaged inner-city boys. The study began in the 1940s. The subjects were all white males, American nationality. They were evaluated at least every 2 years by questionnaires, information from their physicians, and by personal interviews to understand their mental and physical health, career enjoyment, retirement experience, and marital quality, among other factors. Second-generation participants in the study include the wives and children of the original members. Here is the conclusion they offer about what constitutes a good life. I quote, "Thousands of stories from the Harvard study show us that the good life is not found by providing ourselves with leisure and ease. Rather, it arrives from the act of facing inevitable challenges and from fully inhabiting the moments of our lives. It appears quietly as we learn how to love, how to open ourselves to being loved, as we grow from our experiences, and as we stand in solidarity with others through the inevitable strings of joys and adversities in every human life." So I want to introduce you to 2 participants in the study. The authors of the book call them John and Leo. Both attended Harvard. One of these men was consistently among the happiest people in the study. One of them was consistently among the least happy. Both John and Leo came from advantaged families. John's family was wealthy, Leo's was middle class. Both graduated from Harvard and served in World War II. When their service ended, they each had a choice about where to go with their lives. John's father wanted him to come home and help run the family dry cleaning business. But John thought that success would be better achieved by becoming a lawyer, so he pursued that course. Leo wanted to be a writer. He'd kept a journal during the war and wanted to write a book about his experience. His parents supported this choice. However, but before he could begin, his father died and his mother developed Parkinson's, so he decided to return home and help take care of her. Leo took a job as a high school teacher. Fast forward 30 years, and both men were then 55 years old. It's 1975. John is a successful lawyer and makes $52,000 a year. Leo, a high school teacher, has turned down many promotional opportunities and makes $18,000 a year. On the Harvard study for that survey in 1975, both men were asked this question: true or false? Life is more pain than pleasure. John said true. he felt that life was more pain than pleasure. Leo said false. They were also asked to complete a sentence, a man feels good when, ... John said, a man feels good when he is able to respond to his inner drives. Leo said, a man feels good when he knows that his family loves him despite challenges. So I guess you figured out by now that Leo is the happy one. He was not the most successful by external measures. In fact, one of the interviewers who did an in-person interview with him made the note, I came away from our interview with the impression that Leo was quite ordinary. But Leo cultivated love and gratitude throughout his life. He turned down those promotions to stay connected to students. He prioritized his family, his long-term friends, his community. He and his wife had a strong bond that helped them through inevitable challenges. On the survey he received every 2 years for most of his life, he said he was either happy or extremely happy. John, I'm sure you figured out, was one of the least happy men in the study. He was driven to succeed. Indeed, he'd indicated many times he was motivated by the fear of failure. By midlife, he had alienated his children and was estranged from his wife. The study notes indicated that he tried to make himself happy, but he was preoccupied at every stage of his life with himself and what he referred to as his inner drives. That last note really caught my attention. John tried to make himself happy. In contrast to Leo, who simply led a life in a way that allowed happiness to arise. As I read in that quote from the Harvard study, happiness appears quietly as we learn how to love and to open ourselves to being loved. So I think we've learned that to have a good life, we don't chase happiness. We don't strive for it. We don't try to make ourselves happy. Instead, we cultivate a life that allows happiness to arise like flowers in a field. I really like that idea of a word, cultivate, cultivating our life, because it brings up the idea of tending things, like tending your garden, nurturing, caring, planting seeds, giving something your time and attention. That's what Leo did for his family and friends, his students, and presumably for himself. But there's another dimension to Leo's life that I want to lift up. He indeed cultivated a life that allowed happiness to unfold for him. But by his choices and his actions, he also contributed to the public happiness, this infrastructure that allows others to be happy as well. As UUSS, we call that the interconnected web. Leo was a teacher, a family member, a community member, and through all these acts, he supported the happiness and the possibility of happiness for others. He did this despite the inevitable challenges in his life. When I was writing this sermon, I was trying to think of an example of a time that maybe myself or others that I've known have had to learn the lessons of how to cultivate a life in which happiness can unfold. And I think that we have all had a recent experience of cultivating happiness while facing the challenges of life. We called it the pandemic. We learned a lot during that time. The importance of connection, the regulation of our emotions, managing our feelings, and knowing that we were doing things that took care of the common good. When in our lives have we really had that deep of an opportunity to make choices that were clearly and specifically about the common good? According to the World Happiness Report, benevolence was up during COVID. and has stayed up afterwards. The pandemic reminded us of the importance of caring about others, caring about the greater good. It helped us to make choices that contributed to public happiness. I think these skills we developed during this difficult time are going to be really important going forward. I don't know about you, but I don't think the challenges on our world are going to go away anytime soon. Given these challenges and our awareness that our leaders currently do not have the ability to engage productively with these challenges, many of us are experiencing fear and despair. And it is perfectly reasonable to have those feelings. But just as we did during the pandemic, our survival requires that we cultivate a life that can lead to happiness despite our fear and despair, or perhaps because of it. Cultivating a life that can lead to happiness means tending to your self-care, honoring your emotions, but not letting them control you. It means gratitude and generosity, kindness to yourself and others. It means loving well and letting yourself be loved. In these challenging times, we must all do our part to cultivate public happiness. Don't give up on that vision of our founders, that beautiful vision of the country that they dreamed of, just because we're in a mess right now. Each of us can do our part to ensure that our democracy stays strong and that our social networks are helping everyone to thrive. Our congregations has many ways for you to engage in cultivating public happiness, from helping the unhoused, speaking up with our country and city government to let them know what our values are. Everyday moments of kindness give you a chance to contribute to public happiness. For those of you who feel overwhelmed by the suffering in the world, I want to say to you that it's okay to be happy. It's okay. It's okay to cultivate a life that allows happiness to spring forth despite fear and despair, despite suffering. In fact, cultivating that life allows happiness to spring forth for you, but for others as well. Like Leo, our happiest man in the Harvard study, your choices to prioritize connections, love, relationship, and commitment will make a difference. Your choices will help others to find and cultivate happiness in their own lives. As the authors of the Harvard study said, by cultivating a life that can yield happiness, we stand in solidarity with others through the inevitable strings of joys and adversities in every human life. Go forth and cultivate that life. Cultivate that life that allows happiness to spring forth for you, for others, for our country, and for our world. May it be so. Blessed be.
Allow happiness, bring happiness to others. Life calls us on. Here in reverence now we gather for the blessings we have known, with a pledge to one another that we journey not alone. Sorrow make us wise into all that lives and dies. Love calls us on. Love calls us on. Words and deeds of those before us, waken here to keep us strong. with light. Blessed are they whose inward beauty shows the path of truth and right. Honor is their earthly prize. By their work we realize faith calls us on. Faith calls us on. We have shared a radiant hour when the truth will make you free, and the Spirit's gracious power dream of good that yet shall be. Right the path before us lies. Joyful pilgrims now we rise. Life calls us on. 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 Life calls us on.
So moved by that, I got all befuddled. As we prepare to extinguish the chalice, please join me in speaking our shared intention. We extinguish this flame, but we carry the light, love, and commitment of this gathering into the days to come.
So life calls us on. You have your assignment. I hope you were paying attention. It's time to cultivate that life that will allow those flowers of happiness to bloom in your own life and bloom brightly and beautifully so that all of us, all of the challenges of our world can be healed and move forward with joy and love. Blessings on your journey.